The grand hall of the Galactic Conclave buzzed with the voices of 30 different alien species. Captain Jack Harrison stood tall despite feeling small. His blue uniform of the Earth Defense Fleet was crisp and new compared to the elaborate robes and armor of the other delegates. "Remember," said his second-in-command, Lisa Daniels, "we're here to make friends, not enemies." Jack nodded. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. They were babies in this cosmic community. Most aliens looked at humans with curiosity or indifference, but the Vicari were different. The Vicari delegation sat across the room. Their scaled bodies were twice as tall as a human. Their 4 arms ended in clawed hands. Jack had been briefed about them. The Virari Empire controlled 15 star systems and was known for their military might. "The human delegation may approach," announced the conclave speaker, a jellyfish-like creature floating in a gravity bubble. Jack walked forward, his heart beating fast. This was humanity's formal introduction to the galaxy. He had practiced his speech for weeks. "Honorable members of the Galactic Conclave," Jack began. "Earth extends its hand in friendship and peaceful cooperation." Several alien species made sounds of approval. Some even clapped their tentacles or wings together. But the Vicary ambassador, General Draw, simply stared with his yellow eyes. "We may be new to the stars," Jack continued, "but humans have much to offer. Our art, our science, our unique perspective." "Enough of this nonsense," interrupted General Doctra. His translator device made his voice sound like gravel. "We have studied your species. You are nothing but primitive primates who got lucky with technology." A hush fell over the hall. Jack kept his face calm, even as anger rose in his chest. "With respect," General Jack said, "we came here to build relationships, not to be insulted." The Vicari delegation laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You think you deserve respect." General Draw stood up. He towered over Jack. "Your people spent most of their history killing each other over tiny patches of dirt. You are violent, short-lived, and weak." Jack took a deep breath. "We have made mistakes, yes, but we have learned from them. We seek peace." General Draw moved closer. "Peace. Your history shows you don't even know the meaning of the word." The tension in the room was thick. Other alien delegates watched nervously. Some were already backing away. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion later," Jack suggested, trying to be diplomatic. General Draw leaned down until his face was inches from Jack's. Then he did something unexpected. He spat directly into Jack's face. The thick green fluid dripped down Jack's cheek. He wiped it away slowly, fighting every instinct to respond with force. "In my culture," Jack said quietly, "that would be considered extremely rude." What Jack didn't know was that in Veracuri culture, spitting on someone was not just rude. It was a formal declaration of war. General Drax smiled. "The Verity Empire does not negotiate with lesser beings." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the conclave hall. Lisa ran to Jack's side. "Captain, 3 Vicari warships just appeared from hyperspace. They're attacking our vessel." Before Jack could respond, a massive explosion shook the station. The conclave erupted into chaos. This was a trap, Jack realized. He grabbed his communicator. "All Earth personnel, evacuate immediately. This is not a drill." As they ran for their ship, Lisa looked at Jack with confusion. "What just happened? We didn't do anything to provoke them." Jack had no answer. He didn't understand that he had just been pulled into a war with one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. What the Vicari didn't understand was that they had just declared war on the most lethal species in the known universe. They would learn their mistakes soon enough. General Drax stood proudly before the Vicari High Command. Large screens displayed the damage done to the human ships. The curved wall of the war room glowed with red light that reflected off their scales. "The humans never saw it coming," Draw boasted. Their faces showed confusion, not fear. They didn't even understand they were at war. Supreme Commander Voss clicked his claws together in approval. "An excellent strategy, General. The element of surprise gives us a great advantage." The 7 members of the High Command sat at a round table. They were the most powerful Vicari in the Empire. Each controlled massive fleets and armies. Show us what we know about these humans, ordered Voss. A hologram appeared in the center of the table. It showed human anatomy. 2 arms, 2 legs, a soft body with no natural armor. As you can see, said General Doctor, humans are physically weak. They have no claws, no venom, and poor senses. Their planet has low gravity, making their bones fragile compared to ours. Yet they managed to develop space travel, noted Commander Zira, the only female on the council. Dara waved a dismissive hand. Pure luck. Their scientific development was chaotic and unplanned. They stumbled upon faster than light travel through a series of accidents. What about their weapons? Asked another commander. Basic energy weapons. Nothing we haven't seen before, Dra replied. Their ships are poorly armored. We stole their military database. Their tactics are simple and predictable. The meeting was interrupted by a young officer who rushed in. He bowed deeply before speaking. Supreme Commander, we have received a message from Earth. Their governments are asking why we attacked their ships. They claim they don't understand what provoked us. The High Command laughed together. It was a harsh, grating sound. They play innocent, said Voss. How amusing. Shall I prepare a response? Asked the young officer. No response is needed, Drax said. Our next attacks will make our intentions clear enough. In a different part of space, Admiral William Reeves stood before Earth's United Defense Council. The room was filled with representatives from every major nation on Earth. The attack was unprovoked, Reeves explained. Captain Harrison was following diplomatic protocol when the F. Carey suddenly opened fire. How many casualties? Asked the council president. 27 dead, 15 wounded, Reeves replied. His voice was tight with anger. The Vicari specifically targeted our engines to prevent escape. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a planned ambush. Lisa Daniels stepped forward. Her uniform was still stained with blood from helping the wounded. Intelligence has discovered something important, she said. The Virarii have already begun attacking our outer colonies. The research station near Alpha Centauri was hit an hour ago. Gasps filled the room. The research station was primarily civilian scientists and their families. Casualties? Someone asked, voice shaking. 342 confirmed dead. Lisa answered quietly, including 86 children. Silence fell over the room. Then the council president spoke. Admiral Reeves, what do you recommend? Reeves straightened his back. The Vicari clearly want war. All attempts at communication have been ignored. I suggest we give them exactly what they're asking for. But their empire is vast, protested one council member. They have 15 star systems, hundreds of warships. We've barely established colonies on 3 planets. Numbers don't tell the whole story, Reeves said firmly. The Virarii think they know what humans are capable of. They're wrong. What response should we send them? Asked the president. Reeves thought for a moment. Something simple, something they'll understand later when it's too late. He paused. Send this message. You've made a terrible mistake. In his war room, Supreme Commander Voss received the human message. He read it and laughed. Look at this pathetic threat, he told his commanders. These humans think they can stand against the might of our empire. If only he knew what was coming. For the first time in human history, Earth stood united. The attack on the research station changed everything. Old enemies became allies. Borders that had divided nations for centuries now meant nothing. Commander Susan Blackwood stared at the wall of screens in Earth Defense Headquarters. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. Her brother had been on that research station. He was a botanist studying alien plants. Now he was gone. Commander, the United Earth Fleet is assembled, said her aide, Lieutenant Greg Foster. Susan nodded. On the main screen, hundreds of ships gathered in Earth orbit. Some were old military vessels. Others were civilian ships hastily fitted with weapons. It wasn't much compared to the Virarii fleet, but it was only the beginning. What's the status of Project Awakening? She asked. Greg checked his tablet. The first wave of dormant defense systems is online. The Vicari don't know about them. Susan allowed herself a small smile. For decades, Earth nations had hidden their most advanced weapons from each other. Now those secrets were being shared and deployed together. And the combat systems ready, Greg replied. We kept those off the official military database that the Virari stole. They have no idea what's coming. In another part of the galaxy, a Varakiri scout ship detected an unusual signal. They followed it to a small human vessel that appeared to be damaged. "Prepare to board," ordered Captain Krell. "Take prisoners for questioning." The Vakari soldiers stormed the human ship with weapons ready. They found 5 human crew members who immediately raised their hands and surrender. "You are now prisoners of the Ferrari Empire," announced the Furcari leader. "Resistance is useless." The humans exchanged glances. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of surrendering, the humans attacked with hidden weapons. They fought fiercely, despite being outnumbered. Captain Krell watched in disbelief as his soldiers reported the battle. Why don't they surrender? They can't win. When the last human fell, the Virarii searched the ship. They found something strange. The ship's engine was rigged to explode. The humans had been fighting to buy time. If the Vikarii hadn't discovered it, the explosion would have destroyed both ships. "This makes no sense," Krell said. "Why would they choose death over capture?" On the Virarii homeworld, an elderly alien named Professor Z requested a meeting with the High Command. He was not Virarii, but Galarion, a species known for their long lives and extensive knowledge of galactic history. "I must warn you about these humans," Professor Zex told them. His voice was thin with age. "I have studied thousands of species. Humans are different." General Draw laughed. "Different how? They are weak and primitive." "Have you studied their history?" asked the professor. "Humans fought thousands of wars against themselves. They developed weapons that could destroy their own planet. They survived disasters that should have ended their civilization multiple times. Ancient history dismissed Supreme Commander Voss. Their current military is no match for ours." "You do not understand," insisted Professor Z. "Humans are dangerous not because of their current weapons, but because of how they think. They are incredibly adaptive. When faced with a stronger enemy, they become more dangerous, not less." The High Command ignored his warnings. They laughed at the old professor's fears. Meanwhile, Commander Blackwood led a small team to a Vikari outpost where human prisoners were being held. Her ship was tiny and fast, designed to avoid detection. "Remember," she told her team, "this is a rescue mission. Get our people out quickly and quietly," but nothing went as planned. The Vikari discovered them almost immediately. In the firefight that followed, Susan's team was cut off from their ship. "We need a new plan," said one of her soldiers. As enemy fire hit the wall beside them, Susan looked around at the alien technology surrounding them. Her mind worked quickly, seeing patterns and possibilities. "I have an idea," she said, "but it's going to be loud, very loud." 2 hours later, the Virarii outpost exploded in flames as Susan's team escaped with all the prisoners. They had turned the Virari's own defense systems against them. When news of the raid reached the Virarii High Command, the laughter stopped. For the first time, doubt crept in. Perhaps these humans were more dangerous than they appeared. Lieutenant Alex Carter stood before a group of alien allies in a secure meeting room. 3 species had secretly reached out to Earth, offering help against the Furcari. They were smaller powers who had suffered under Fury aggression for years. "Before we discuss strategy," Alex said, "you need to understand what you're allying with. You need to understand humans." He touched a control panel. Images appeared on the wall screen. Ancient human warriors with spears, medieval knights in armor, modern soldiers with rifles. "Humans have been fighting wars for our entire history," Alex explained. "Not just against threats, but against each other, for land, for resources, for ideas." The aliens watched silently. One of them, a blue-skinned diplomat named Kuri, raised a tentacle. "This is not unique," Kiri said. "Many species fight wars." Alex nodded. "True, but humans perfected war in ways most species never imagined. We turned it into a science." More images appeared. Ancient battle formations, guerrilla fighters hiding in jungles, modern special forces training. "When the Verkari attacked us, they expected us to fight according to galactic conventions of warfare." Alex continued. "They expected us to meet their fleets in open space to follow predictable patterns. One of the aliens, a reptilian creature named Dex, clicked his teeth nervously. And you don't. We adapt, Alex replied simply. Throughout our history, when faced with stronger enemies, humans found ways to even the odds. We developed tactics that seem dishonorable to some, but effective to us. Meanwhile, in a distant star system, a lone human destroyer named the Defiant approached a Veracuri patrol of 3 warships. The Verari ships were larger and more heavily armed. They spotted us, reported the Defiant sensor officer. They're moving to surround us. Captain Frank Martinez nodded calmly. Right where we want them. Begin Operation Trojan. The Defiant sent out a distress signal, appearing damaged and vulnerable. The Vericieri ships moved closer, eager for an easy kill. They're within range, said the weapons officer. Now, ordered Martinez. The Defiant suddenly released dozens of small objects. They looked like debris, but each contained a powerful explosive. At the same time, the ship's engines fired at full power, pulling away faster than the Vicari expected. The Veracuri commander laughed. They're running away and dropping garbage behind them. Pathetic. Then the garbage exploded. The blasts created a chain reaction with the FCI ship's own weapon systems. All 3 warships were destroyed. The Defiant didn't survive either. Captain Martins and his crew had known it was a one-way mission. They had volunteered anyway. Back at the Alliance meeting, Alex showed footage of the battle. 1 human ship for 3 very capital ships, he said quietly. We call it an acceptable trade. The aliens looked disturbed. This was not how wars were fought in the civilized galaxy. But the crew started, Kiri volunteered. Alex finished because they knew their sacrifice would save more lives in the long run. In the Verari High Command, Supreme Commander Voss slammed his fist on the table. How are they predicting our movements? He demanded. We change our codes daily, yet they're always one step ahead. General Dra had no answer. The war was not going as planned. Humans didn't fight like any enemy they have faced before. Professor Zex was invited back to speak. This time they listened. Humans evolved as predators, the old alien explained. Apex predators on their own world. They understand predatory thinking because they are predators themselves. What does that mean? Asked Commander Zera. It means they think like you do, replied Professor X. They can predict what you will do because they ask themselves, what would I do if I were hunting? And then they set traps accordingly. For the first time, fear flickered in the eyes of the Vercari High Command. Then how do we defeat them? Asked Supreme Commander Voss. Professor Zay shook his head sadly. I'm afraid you already made your biggest mistake. You killed their young. He looked at each Vicary commander in turn. There is nothing more dangerous in the galaxy than a human protecting its children, or a human seeking revenge for them. 6 months into the war, the tide had turned. The Vicari, who had expected a quick victory, were now losing territory daily. Their once mighty empire was shrinking as humans pushed forward on multiple fronts. Sergeant Maria Vasquez lay perfectly still in the tall purple grass of planet Nexus 7. The colony had been under Verary control for 3 months. Maria and her team had been on the ground for 5 days, barely sleeping, watching, and waiting. Target convoy approaching, whispered Corporal Ryan Lee through their secure comm channel. 6 vehicles, 22 soldiers by my count. I copy that, Maria replied. She checked her weapon one last time. Everyone in position. Remember, we hit hard and fast. What followed was not a fair fight. The Verici never saw the attack coming. Maria's team had studied their patrol patterns, identified their weaknesses, and struck at the perfect moment. Within minutes, the convoy was destroyed, and the human team disappeared back into the wilderness. This same scene was playing out across dozens of occupied worlds. Small human teams causing massive damage before vanishing. On a Vicari command ship, Field Marshal Gorn reviewed the reports with growing concern. How are they doing this? He demanded of his intelligence officer. These humans have been on the ground for days without rest or resupply. Our troops require regular breaks in food. The humans just keep going. The intelligence officer brought up an analysis of human physiology. We've learned something disturbing about humans. They evolved as what they call persistence hunters. Before they had weapons, they would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. "What does that mean for us?" asked Gorn. "It means they can keep fighting long after our troops are exhausted. They can go days with minimal sleep and still function. Some of their soldiers have been awake for 72 hours straight and still complete complex missions." Field Marshal Gorn stared at the data in disbelief. No Fury could function without proper rest cycles. Their biology simply wouldn't allow it. In another part of space, a meeting of alien scientists and anthropologists was taking place. They had gathered to discuss the surprising human military success. "The most remarkable thing about humans," said Dr. Plex, a leading xenobiologist, "is not their technology, but their adaptability. They learn from every encounter." She showed the group examples of human equipment captured early in the war compared to current versions. "See how they modified their armor after first contact with Thrari weapons. They've improved their shields to counter for carry energy signatures, and their weapons now exploit the weak points in for carry ship designs." "How quickly did they make these changes?" asked one observer. "Weeks," replied Dr. Plex. "Not years or decades, as most species would require their industrial base completely reoriented for war production in less than a month." Back at Valkyrie High Command, Supreme Commander Voss faced reality. The war was not winnable in its current form. "We must sue for peace," he told his commanders. "We can offer to return to the pre-war boundaries." "The humans will never agree," said Commander Zira. "They keep pushing forward." Nevertheless, the Vereri sent peace and voice to Earth. They were surprised when Admiral Reeves agreed to meet them. "We offer a return to previous boundaries," said the Vicari diplomat. "All hostilities will cease." Admiral Reeves listened patiently. When the Vicari finished speaking, he leaned forward. "That would have been acceptable 6 months ago before you attacked our civilians," he said calmly. "Now we require unconditional surrender and full reparations for the lies you took." The Vicari diplomat was shocked. "But that would destroy our empire. Our people would lose everything." "You should have thought about that before you started this war," Reeves replied. His voice was not angry, just matter of fact. "You declared war on humanity. Now you'll see it through to the end." When the Vicari High Command received this response, they couldn't comprehend it. In their history, reasonable compromises were always accepted. The human demand for total victory seemed extreme and unnecessary. "If they won't accept reasonable terms," declared Supreme Commander Voss, "then humans are a threat to galactic peace itself. They must be eliminated, no matter the cost." What the Viseri failed to understand was that humans had one quality no other species had encountered before: the absolute refusal to give up, no matter the odds. The Vicari launched their most desperate attack yet. A massive fleet jumped into Earth's solar system, bypassing the outer defense lines. Their target was Earth itself. If they could strike at the human homeworld, perhaps they could break their spirit. Commander Olivia Wright received the alert in Earth Defense Headquarters buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Warning lights flashed red across every screen. "Viseri fleet detected," announced the AI monitoring system. 214 warships. Estimated time to Earth, orbit 6 hours. Olivia's face remained calm as she pressed the emergency broadcast button. Her voice would now reach every human settlement in the solar system. "This is Commander Wright. Earth Defense Protocol Dragon is now active. I repeat, Dragon is now active." Across Earth and throughout the solar system, people moved with practiced efficiency. This was not panic. This was preparation. For months, every human had trained for this possibility. In orbit, civilian space stations transformed. Hidden weapon systems emerged from what had appeared to be ordinary structures. Mining ships revealed military raw shields. Even passenger liners carried surprise defenses. On Earth's surface, people moved into underground shelters. But these were not just hiding places. Each shelter contained manufacturing equipment. The entire human population was now part of the war effort. The Vereri fleet approached confidently. Their sensors detected Earth's official military forces gathering to meet them. The human fleet was much smaller, only 48 warships. "This will be a glorious victory," said Fleet Admiral Krell to his officers. "Their pathetic defense will be crushed, and we will bombard their cities until they surrender." What the Virarii didn't know was that Earth had been preparing for this moment since the first day of the war. The official fleet was just the visible part of their defense. As the Virarii entered Earth orbit, Commander Wright gave another order. Activate Sleeping Dragon. Suddenly, thousands of objects throughout the solar system came to life. Asteroids that were actually disguised weapon platforms, satellites that contained powerful energy weapons, even space debris that turned out to be smart mines. The Vikarii fleet found itself surrounded and under attack from all directions. "What is happening?" screamed Fleet Admiral Krell as his flagship shook from multiple impacts. "Where are these attacks coming from?" On his tactical display, new enemy signatures appeared every second. The space around Earth was alive with weapons that had been hiding in plain sight. Even more shocking to the Vikarii was when civilian ships joined the battle. Cargo vessels rammed into Vikarii warships at full speed. Passenger ships sacrificed themselves to protect military vessels. A Rari captain watched in horror through his viewscreen as a human mining vessel, clearly piloted by ordinary workers, not soldiers, deliberately collided with his cruiser's engines. "These humans are insane," he told his second-in-command. "They're sacrificing civilians. That's against all galactic war conventions." What he didn't understand was that for humans, there was no distinction between military and civilian. When their home was threatened, every human became a defender. In her command center, Olivia coordinated the battle with cold efficiency. Screens showed the ferry fleet being torn apart. Of the original 214 ships, less than 50 remained after just 2 hours. "They're retreating," reported her tactical officer with satisfaction. Olivia nodded. "Let some escape. We want them to tell the others what happened here." As the surviving Virarii ships fled the solar system, they carried with them terrifying stories. The humans didn't just fight with their military. Their entire civilization was a weapon. Professor Z met with the remaining Ferry High Command members. Several chairs stood empty. Their occupants had been on ships destroyed in the failed Earth attack. "Now, do you understand?" the old alien asked quietly. "Humans don't just use weapons. When threatened, they become weapons. Every one of them. Their entire society transforms." Supreme Commander Voss stared at the battle reports in disbelief. No species they had ever encountered fought this way. "We must strike back harder," he insisted, though with less conviction than before. Professor Zay shook his head sadly. "I fear you have awakened something that cannot be stopped. The humans will come for you now and they will not show mercy." Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the flagship Invincible. The massive view screen showed hundreds of human warships assembled in formation. It was the largest fleet humans had ever built. "All ships report ready," Admiral said, his communications officer. Reeves nodded. "Begin the jump sequence. Destination Vikarii Prime." The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, bound for the heart of Vikarii territory. The final offensive had begun. Captain Eric Russell led a team of 12 special operations soldiers. Their ship was tiny, designed to avoid detection. While the main fleet would engage the Vikarii forces directly, Eric's team had a different mission. "We'll have one chance at this," Eric told his team as they approached Vikarii Prime. "Our job is to infiltrate the Imperial Palace and capture their military command codes." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Sofia Garcia, studied the holographic map of their target. "Security will be extreme. The entire planet is on high alert. That's why they won't expect us to land right in the capital city," Eric replied with a grim smile. "Sometimes the boldest move is the safest." Their ship slipped through the Vikarii defenses by hiding in the shadow of a cargo vessel. They landed in an industrial zone and quickly disguised themselves as maintenance workers. Meanwhile, the human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Vikarii system. Alarms blared across every Virarii military installation. "Human fleet detected," shouted a Virarii officer. "Over 500 warships." Supreme Commander Voss could not believe the display. 6 months ago, humans had barely 40 military vessels. Now they had hundreds, all built while fighting a war across multiple fronts. "How is this possible?" he whispered. Professor Z, who had remained as an advisor, answered quietly. "I tried to tell you, when humans mobilize for war, Their entire civilization transforms. Every factory, every resource, every person is dedicated to the effort. The Vickery population watched in horror as the human fleet approached their home world. They had been told they were winning the war. Now enemy ships filled their skies. In the palace, Eric's team moved carefully through service corridors. Their disguises worked perfectly. Viserys were so convinced of their superiority that they never imagined humans could infiltrate their capital. "Command center ahead," whispered Sophia. "Guards at the entrance." Eric gave hand signals to his team. They moved with practiced precision. The guards were neutralized silently, and the team entered the command center. Inside, they found something they hadn't expected: data files for a doomsday weapon. The Vickery Emperor had ordered its construction in secret. If activated, it would create a chain reaction that would destroy not only Vickery Prime, but several nearby star systems. "We need to warn the fleet," Eric said urgently. He copied the files while his team secured the room. Aboard the Invincible, Admiral Reeves received Eric's message. The situation had suddenly become more complicated. If they pushed the Vickery too hard, the Emperor might activate the weapon out of desperation. "All ships hold position," Reeves ordered. "Do not advance further." The human fleet stopped its approach, maintaining a blockade formation around the planet. The Vickery Emperor, a massive figure named Drex, addressed his military council. "If the humans will not retreat, we will use the Void Catalyst," he declared. "Better to destroy everything than surrender to inferior beings." General Draw, once so confident, now looked alarmed. "My Emperor, the weapon will kill billions of our own people." "A necessary sacrifice," replied Emperor Drex coldly. "The Vickery Empire will never bow to humans." What neither the Emperor nor his generals realized was that Eric's team had planted devices throughout the palace. Every word they spoke was being transmitted to the human fleet. Reeves faced an impossible choice. If he ordered an attack, the Emperor might activate the weapon. If he retreated, the Vickery would rebuild and the war would continue. "Sir," said his strategic officer, "Captain Russell is requesting permission for an alternate approach." "What does he have in mind?" asked Reeves. "He wants to address the Vickery people directly, tell them the truth about the war and the weapon their leaders plan to use." Reeves considered this. It was a gamble, but perhaps the only way to end the war without billions more deaths. "Permission granted," he said finally. "Let's see if the Vickery people are wiser than their leaders." 1 year had passed since the end of the war. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Conclave was filled once again with representatives from across the galaxy. But things were very different now. Lisa Daniels, once a military officer, now stood as Earth's ambassador to the Conclave. The blue uniform of the Earth Defense Fleet had been replaced by elegant diplomatic robes. "The rebuilding of the former Vickery worlds continues ahead of schedule," she reported to the Assembly. "With human assistance, their infrastructure is now 70% restored." The Virarii representative. Council leader Tavok nodded in agreement. He represented the new Vickery Federation, a democratic government that had replaced the fallen empire. Few could have predicted this outcome when Captain Russell had made his desperate broadcast to the Vickery people. He had shown them proof of their emperor's plan to destroy their own world rather than surrender. He had offered them a choice: continue following leaders who would sacrifice them or take control of their own future. The response had shocked everyone. Ordinary Virari citizens had stormed the imperial palace. They had captured the emperor and his generals before they could activate the doomsday weapon. Now, a year later, humans and Efkari worked side by side. Human doctors treated for Akuri wounded. Human engineers helped rebuild destroyed cities. The same determination that had made humans unstoppable in war now drove them to heal and rebuild. After the meeting, Ambassador Daniels walked through the gardens outside the conclave hall. A young Viserys approached her hesitantly. He was barely an adult, his scales still bright with youth. "Ambassador, may I speak with you?" he asked. Lisa smiled. "Of course. What can I help you with? My name is Krell. I lost my parents in the war," the young Vickery said. "Now I study at a school rebuilt by humans. My teachers are human. The doctors who treated my injuries were human. He seemed confused as he continued. I need to understand something. When you had defeated us, why didn't you just destroy us? You had the power. Our leaders would have done that to you. Lisa considered her answer carefully. Destroying an enemy is easy, Krell. Building something together is harder but more worthwhile. But we killed your people first, Krell insisted. We attacked without true provocation. Yes, you did, Lisa acknowledged, and we fought back with everything we had. But humans learned something important from our own bloody history. They walked together past flowering plants from a dozen worlds. The most dangerous weapon humans possess isn't our technology or our persistence, Lisa explained. It's our ability to choose, to decide when not to use violence, even when we could. Krell thought about this. My history teacher said, humans are dangerous because you can be ruthless, but valuable because you can be merciful. Lisa smiled. That's a good way to put it. Across the garden, Admiral Reeves, now retired, was speaking with delegates from several species. They were discussing a joint defense pact with Earth. Make humans your enemies, and you will regret it, one delegate was saying. But make them your allies, and you will never fear aggression again. The old admiral nodded but added, just remember the choice to be peaceful is exactly that, a choice, one we make daily. As the sun set over the conclave, representatives from 30 species gathered for a formal dinner. Human and Frieri sat side by side, former enemies now working toward a common future. A toast was raised by the conclave speaker to understanding between worlds. In a quiet moment, Professor Zex approached Lisa. The elderly alien looked pleased. You know, he said, there's a new saying spreading through the galaxy. Make friends with humans, for they are the most dangerous enemies and the most valuable allies in the known universe. Lisa raised her glass to friendship. Then, across the stars, on worlds once ravaged by war, humans and Vicari worked together to build something new. The same determination that had made humans lethal in battle now made them extraordinary in peace. The most dangerous species in the galaxy had proven something important. True strength lies not just in the ability to fight, but in knowing when to stop fighting and start.